Welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel. It's Niall, and I'm delighted as always to be joined by Elliot Grigg. And we're here tonight to discuss pretty much future opponents for Johnny Fisher. Of course, Johnny Fisher with an incredible performance last Saturday night in London as he blitzed Alan Babbage in 30 seconds. It was quite stunning, to be honest. But yeah, we're going to throw a few names out here, myself and Elliot, a few big domestic names, and just touch on how we might get on against those. So, Elliot, hope you're well. I'd say you are with that ignorant results that we're recording just after. But yeah, hope you're doing all right. And yeah, as I say, just a couple of domestic names here that we're going to touch on. The first kind of, well, I'll pair them up because they are due to fight. Obviously earlier on today, I think last night, this fight was cancelled. It was supposed to be coming up, but it was cancelled. Saul Dacres and David Adeleye. It has been mooted. Maybe they could be potential opponents for Johnny Fisher, whoever comes through that next. Let's jump straight into it. How do you see them getting on? Well, I suppose maybe touch on first who you see coming through that one quickly, and then how would you see either or getting on against Johnny Fisher if that was to happen?
Interesting questions. Thank you very much, Flat Owens. I think very much that Noel. Sorry, I think sorry, I was calling the wrong names. I've been too busy talking to Owen about the football tonight. That's exactly right. England are into the final. This is not a reaction video to that, sadly. But the Bosch Army, we are here watching, talking about Johnny Fisher, and they'll be delighted, obviously, what happened in the football as well. Right, let's take those names that you mentioned. Obviously, Johnny Fisher, their really explosive performance against Babbage. Obviously, a lot of people had him winning that, but not necessarily in the way that he came out and blitzed him. Did he was very, very impressive, like you mentioned. I think for me, look at those names. Obviously, you've got Sol Dacres, what, 8-0. And then Adeleye, similar record really to Fisher, 12 fights, 12 wins on there as well. So tough fights. I think for me, I look at Johnny Fisher and he surprised me. He really has. I mean, Adelaye's obviously got that loss, that KO loss on his record. So I'll take him first. I think he lost to Wardley, and I'm thinking where I pitch actually Johnny Fisher. So I think he beats the likes of Adeleye, frankly, and Dacres. I think he beats both of them. I really, really do. And I think I'd have to say I think he overwhelms both. I think if you look at obviously what happened with I think Adeline maybe might give him more rounds. Frankly, obviously he went what his 7 rounds with Wardley, I think it was something like that. And I don't actually have Fisher at this stage on that level of kind of Fabio Wardley yet. I think if he went to fight maybe someone like a Wardley or a Clark, I think he's a little bit below that at this point, to be honest with you. So for me, that's what kind of I see him just a little bit below that, in with these guys like Adelaide and Dacre. But I think he'd have too much for Adelaide. I think Adelaide maybe taking rounds. But I'm not sure Dacre would, to be perfectly honest with you. I'm really looking at some of the names he's been in with as well. And obviously, he carries a bit of power. But obviously, that draw with Chris Thompson recently on the record as well. Another draw with Webster. I think Johnny Fisher goes straight in and blitz him. I really do. I think he'd stop Dacre quickly. I think Adelaide go more rounds, but I think he would also get stopped. If them two were to fight each other again, I actually would back Adelaide in that one, frankly, as well, over Dacre as well. I think he's just a little bit better, frankly, a little bit of a level above. Similar level, but level above. I think he'd stop him as well. He's got 11 KOs, I think, in his 12 wins as well. So obviously carries power. I think he'd get to Dacre. Dacre doesn't actually carry the same amount of power. So I think Adelaide would eventually get to him and stop him. But I think the Bosch Army, like England in this Euros, would march through both of them, mate, is what I think would happen. And we could also touch on, you mentioned there, we're talking about other people who are talking on cams, whatever, as well. Like Dave Allen's obviously another name. I'm keen to throw his name into the mix as well, obviously, here. And maybe after you give us your summary of how you necessarily see Johnny Fisher going up against Adeline and Dacre, how you think he'd also maybe get on, were he to fight Dave Allen in the next sort of, I suppose, won't be for a while, will it? Maybe the next sort of year, 18 months?
Yeah, it was interesting points that you made there. To be honest, I'll start with Saul Dacres, and without sounding too harsh, I think this is the easiest of the three names to predict for against Johnny Fisher. I don't rate Dacres highly at all. I think he's quite cumbersome and slow. Doesn't particularly punch hard, as you mentioned, and what I've seen of Dacre so far, I don't think he likes getting hit either, especially in his last fight when he gets caught. I don't think he likes it too much. So I think Johnny Fisher blast through Saul Dacres, to be honest. Maybe 4 or 5 rounds. I think he gets him out of there. So I agree on that. David Adeleye, it's an interesting one for me. I find this one hard to call, to be honest. I know you said Johnny Fisher deals with David Adeleye and this, but I'm struggling. I do rate Johnny Fisher, but I wonder, are people getting carried away with him because of his support that he draws, his personality, or what he done to Babbage? But I think David Adeleye would have got Babbage out there in the round as well. think Babbage was absolutely terrible. No disrespect, a lot of people were expecting an early KO and he got it. Maybe not that early, but I'm trying not to get too carried away with him because aside from Babbage, Johnny Fisher's fought absolutely nobody. Neither is David Adeleye. David Adeleye has obviously fought Fabio Wardy, but he's aside from that, he's fought nobody. He's beat nobody of any note. So I I'm gonna go. I think David Adelaide beats Johnny Fisher. To be quite honest with you, I'm gonna go. It might be a bit of a brave show, but I'm going for maybe a late stoppage. I just think he's a sharper boxer. I think he's a bit quicker. He's a sharper boxer than Johnny Fisher for me, and of course he does carry power. David Adelaide for me is a good fighter. If that Fabio Wardy fight was considered 50-50, people forget that he did lose by knockout, but a lot of people fancy David Adelaide to beat Fabio Wardy. So I do rate David Adelaide, and I just edge him against Johnny Fisher in my opinion. But I do rate Fisher. Yeah, so we're split on that. But yeah, before we wrap up, we will touch on Dave Allen because there was a lot of talk about that fight as well. We seen both of them on FaceTime to each other saying it will happen at some point. So Dave Allen for me, he's been a bit too inactive, first of all, more so than anything else. He's not been in the ring with decent level opposition. So I could see Johnny Fisher badly hurting Dave Allen, to be quite honest with you. Especially this version of Dave Allen that hasn't been active, but I definitely can't see that happening. And it sells very well. It really does. But yeah, I think Johnny Fisher blast through Dave Allen in a couple of rounds, to be honest. How about you?
Yeah, you know what? I can't fault anything you're saying. I really cannot. I think when Dave Allen obviously came back against Fraser Clark, we didn't see enough in Dave Allen to me that suggests that he's actually going to be able to sort of compete against those sort of bigger guys either. And Fraser Clark's not even the biggest heavyweight. With the style that's not like anything like Fish, he's not going to come and try and wreck through you either. So for me, you see the likes of I'm not saying that I'm not comparing at this stage Fisher to David Price as such, but you saw what happened obviously with the punches that he took against David Price, Dave Allen, and I just think similar situation would happen. I honestly think Johnny Fisher would just walk straight into him and just start blitzing him. I think he'd overpower him definitely within 3 rounds. I could see it being in the first two as well, frankly. I don't think Dave Allen's got that much left, frankly, if anything left. And to be honest, I probably wouldn't. I know it sells, but I'm not sure I'd even want to see that. I don't even want to see Johnny Fisher just overwhelm Dave Allen. I think it'd be quite sad, but I do think he'd win. So out of all the three names we mentioned, I've got Fisher winning three of them. You've obviously got Fisher, potentially losing to Adeleye, but the other two as well. So exciting times, isn't it, for Johnny Fisher in the heavyweight division?
Yeah, absolutely is. Yeah, as you mentioned, you've unbeaten all three. Just before we wrap up, like it is exciting times for him. I just wanted you to kind of quickly touch on how far do you think Johnny Fisher can go? Can he? I know we're not talking anywhere near world titles yet, but can he get to say a Commonwealth? Can he trouble the likes of Wardley, Clark, or even win a European title? How far can Fisher go?
Oh, that's a tough question. We've talked about Emily on the channel a couple of times, how far we think he can go. Some people, obviously, early in his career, were going no further than British. Some people were saying no further than, and then no further than European. Some people were saying he might even fight for a world title. I think, I can see. I mean, he's still only young, is he? Still young, especially for a heavyweight as well. That's the thing. It's hard
Yeah.
to kind of judge it. I mean, he's obviously not got many miles on the clock, obviously because he keeps blasting people out. But he's only 25 years old, 12 fights on his record. So for me, it's a case of maybe matching him for the next. I think we'll be able to tell more maybe the next 2 to 3 years how they match him, whether they're careful. At the moment, we know he's a big ticket seller. We know he's a big draw, and in a way, you kind of feel like will he get I suppose, delay development in a way because they kind of want to keep that train happening without him losing. So they don't want to necessarily test him. Or B, will he get a favourable opportunity? If he gets a favourable opportunity, I could see him if the heavyweight title was this is potentially a world chop. If the heavyweight title belts get fractured, I could even see him fighting at some point for a world title against another British fighter in like an all British fight. I could see maybe him fighting someone like Daniel Dubois for a world title at some point if the belts get fractured that way. But I think on merit, at the moment, it's hard to really push him beyond kind of European. I think, to be honest with you, it's very hard. I think he could win a British title. I think, could he beat Fabio Wardley at this stage? Probably not, but could he in a couple of years? Possibly. So I think he could go that far. And then from there, it's a case really of, I suppose, of how they fragment and if he keeps continuing to sell tickets. Eddie Hearn's obviously giving him a big boost, talking about him in relation to AJ the other day. So you can tell they've got plans for him on the sort of
Yeah.
platform sell. And if anyone can make a fight like that happen, it's obviously Eddie Hearn. So I'm not saying he'll win a world title, but there's been plenty of fighters that aren't even as good as Johnny Fisher that fought for world titles. So I can see him maybe fighting for one, to be perfectly honest with you, but I don't see him necessarily winning one.
No, I have to agree. To be honest, it will be interesting, and as you say, time's on his side. So yeah, that's all we have time for on this discussion. I've enjoyed it about what could be next for Johnny Fisher. A couple of really interesting grudge matches there, domestic matches with Saul Dacres, David Adeleye, and even Dave Allen. So yeah, let us know what you think in the comments. Do you agree with us? Does Fisher win all three, or how do you see it going? As always, don't forget, it drops a like on this video. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Always great content coming up. Reviews, previews, interviews, live interviews, and predictions. So, yeah, we're also back on Spotify now. So don't forget to give us a download on that to get us up those charts. And Elliot, it was a pleasure and speak again.
Pleasure talking to you, Niall. And, just another word out to the Bosch Army. We go again Sunday. You've been Niall Van Connell tonight. You'll be Niall Canelo on Sunday, but we are coming, and hopefully we'll be back here on Sunday, like you say, reviewing some boxing, but also talking about victorious England in Euro 2024. Thank you very much, Niall, and as always, guys. Thank you very much for joining me.
We leave it there.